Welcome to Medcity's secret mantra to OET, and the kind of response we've been getting for this video series is wonderful. It's awesome. Thank you. Keep supporting us and do continue sending us your comments and feedback and requests that we'll include in our upcoming videos. In today's video, I'm going to discuss OET writing, and we are going to have a look at how the purpose of a letter really helps you get a high score. Understanding writing the purpose of a letter. So let's have a look at it in more detail. What is this purpose all about? Both you and I know that purpose is an assessment criterion, and if we look at it in more detail, we'll get a better idea of how we can adapt our letter to include a very effective, useful purpose of the letter. So let's get straight to the video. So what is the criterion purpose all about? There are two aspects to purpose as a criterion. One is that the purpose should be immediately apparent, and two, it should be sufficiently expanding. So what are the various aspects that fall under these two let's say minute details about writing a purpose? The purpose of your letter should be immediately apparent and it should be sufficiently expanding. Let's have a look at it in a little more detail. Immediately apparent is that it should be clear. So why are you writing the letter? If your purpose clearly answers this, then you're halfway through to making your purpose immediately apparent. Why should the letter be read? Is that idea clear in that first sentence, first one or two sentences that you write of the letter? And does the letter start with a clear explanation? So if your purpose is able to answer these three questions, it clearly means your purpose is immediately apparent. What about sufficiently expanding? Will the reader understand the situation? So we mostly write the letter to another healthcare practitioner, or it could be the carer or the bystander of the patient. So will that person I'm writing to understand the situation? Are your requests obvious to find? That's the second question. And does the letter provide more detail than your opening explanation? 1, 2, and 3. Now these requirements are something you can ensure your following paragraphs contain. So the first paragraph of your letter will be the purpose, and if the paragraph following the purpose or in the later stages of the letter clearly answers all these questions 1, 2, and 3, then again your purpose is sufficiently expanding. So these are the two aspects that you should ensure when writing the purpose of the letter. Now that you have an idea of what exactly we are looking at when we speak about purpose, let's take a look at some examples and try and identify picking up the purpose of the letter. Let's see if we can really identify what the letter or the reason for writing the letter is. Let's have a look at the examples. So this is example 1, and the purpose can easily be picked from the writing task. So writing task appears at the, I say towards the end, or it's way down the case notes. That means you have the case notes on the top, and at the bottom, at the extreme end of the case notes, you will find the writing task, and it's from the writing task that you can pick the purpose of the letter. So this is the first example. Using the information in the case notes, write a letter of referral to Dr. Smith. So who's Dr. Smith? An endocrinologist at City Hospital. And why are we writing it? For further management of Mrs. Sharma's sugar levels. And the address that we need to mention, which is of course about the purpose, is also given. Okay, so that is something that we don't have to worry about because this will not really help us in the purpose, but the first half of the writing task does. So we know the type of letter, right? We know the type of letter from the writing task. It's a referral letter, and we also know the reason for writing. So this is the reason: further management of what? Of Mrs. Sharma's sugar levels. So see how by reading the task we clearly know what the purpose of the letter is. Let's have a look at a second example. Again, we are having a look at the writing task, and let's read it and find out what the purpose of the letter is. Using the information given in the case notes, write a letter to the occupational therapist at the whatever. This is the name of the organization. The address is given, which is really not required for now for the purpose. Where Mr. Spencer, now this is the name of the patient. So this is the patient. Okay. Where Mr. Spencer is to be discharged, detailing his treatment to date and other information the therapist may need. This is about writing the date. For now, our discussion, this is not required. So we know we are writing to the occupational therapist and the patient's name, and we also know why we are writing the letter, which is detailing his treatment to date and other information. So whatever you think will be helpful to the occupational therapist need to be included from the case note. So this is clearly a case of writing or conveying information. So this is letter giving information to the reader, who is the occupational therapist, and this is the reason for writing the letter, which is treatment history, right? So this is what we need to include in the letter. So the purpose is clear. Wow, that makes it so much easier. The purpose is the first paragraph of your letter, and the writing task itself will give you a clear idea of what your purpose should be. Now there is a small catch to this. Let's see what that is. What if the purpose is not clear from the writing task? Is that possible? Well, it is. So by reading the writing task, if you're not really able to identify what the purpose is, what do? How do we identify the purpose? Now, in such cases, you can find the purpose in the case notes itself. So the writing task, which is given towards the end of the case note, might not have the purpose clearly mentioned. This is an example. We'll see that in a while. So what you need to do is you have to look at the case notes. But where in the case notes? Just above the writing task. Okay, now probably you'll get an idea of it if I show you an example. Now this is an example of a writing task where the purpose is not really clear. Now it says, using the information given in the case notes, write a letter to the community health nurse. So we know who the reader is, okay, in Centerville address, outlining the patient's history, okay. Alright, so we know that we need to mention this, and requesting ongoing monitoring, okay. So this is one requirement and this is the second requirement to be added. But why are we writing it to the community health nurse? What is the exact reason for writing the letter? So the task does not clearly mention it. So we'll have a look at the case notes. This is just a part of the case note, but the part which is right above the writing task, and it says letter to transfer. So I have to write a letter. So this is basically a transfer letter. So that is a type of letter. So that is the purpose of writing this letter to the community health nurse. My patient is Mr. Dunbar. to the care of the community health nurse. Patient is moving to live with his daughter. So that's the idea. If the writing task does not mention the purpose of your letter, all you need to do is read the case notes, just above the writing task. So the part of the case note which is just before the writing task will tell you what the purpose is. This is an example of that. So now you have a better idea of where to look for your purpose and how it can be included in your letter. Now, to ensure that you get a clearer picture of this, I'm going to show you some examples that you can pick from and learn. So let's get into the examples now. This is example 1. I just have the writing task here. This is what we saw initially, where we need to write a letter of referral. So this is a referral letter, and for further management of Mrs. Sharma's sugar level. Okay. So what can an example of the purpose be in this case? Let's have a look. Thank you for seeing Mrs. Priya Sharma, a type 2 diabetic, for further management of her blood sugar levels. Now, this is the purpose, and I've picked it from the writing task. This one sentence is the first paragraph of your letter. Let's have a look at example 2. Using the information given, write a letter to the occupational therapist. Okay, Mr. Spencer is to be discharged, detailing his treatment and other information. So this is letter giving information, and we know the reasons or the things that the pointers we need to mention. The reason for writing the letter. So let's have a look at an example of the purpose. Mr. Spencer has been a patient at this hospital for the past 5 weeks and will be discharged tomorrow. That is sentence 1. He requires your ongoing support and treatment during his rehabilitation. Okay. So where is the patient moving to? The patient is moving to this particular extended care center, which is why the word rehabilitation has been used. So ongoing support and treatment during his rehabilitation. So that is the reason for writing the letter. Alright, so let's look at example 3. It says write a letter to the community nurse, okay, health nurse, and we know we've picked the purpose, the idea of writing the letter from the case notes, and this is an example. Thank you for accepting Mr. Dunbar into your care for the regular monitoring of his diabetes and encouragement to comply with his medication and dietary regimens. Okay. Requesting ongoing monitoring, outlining the patient's history. Now we are transferring to the care of the community health nurse, and these are the things that the community health nurse will have to take care of. Regular monitoring of his diabetes, encouragement to comply with his medication and dietary regimens. So I hope with these examples you have a much better picture of writing the purpose of the letter. Well, the key to coming up with a good purpose is definitely practice. So do loads of practice. Keep trying out different ways of writing the purpose. You don't always have to begin your purpose with the words, this letter is to. You can do it in various other ways. So try, be flexible, because you cannot learn anything. No structured or format can be learned or memorized or by hearted. You have to write a purpose depending on the case notes you get on the day of the exam. So it's always better to be flexible, try different ways of writing it, and be ready for the test day. Thank you so much for watching this video.